So once again, I welcome you all to this very special session of Leadership Talks, 128th session of Leadership Talks. As you know that these sessions are being organized by India International Education Council and School Allergy Solutions. India International Education Council is a not-for-profit organization which is working in the field of education. It has collaborators from 12 countries. It aims to create a better world through education, building quality centers for elementary education approachable for all kids, finding best educational practices across the globe, and find ways to implement those in Indian institutions. It is also creating more awareness on hygiene and learning disabilities. It publishes a magazine called World Education Review and many other educational reports. It aims to build 100 chapters in different cities by 2022. It will soon open its membership for institutions and individuals. It also impart training for leaders, teachers, students, and parents. So as you already know that this is our 128th session. During our last 120 sessions, we have received 14,628 registrations, 13,406 questions. We have received participation from 5 countries: India, USA, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Nepal. From India, we have seen participation from 22 states and 94 cities. We aim to organize minimum 200 sessions. We would be reaching out to 100,000 educators, 20,000 institutions, and 1,000 plus eminent speakers like today's speakers would be joining us to share their perspective and ideas on national education policy. Now, with this, I would request you all, please join me in welcoming our key speakers for this very special session. Our first key speaker, very senior education leader, Dr. Anuradha Mallaji. Anuradha ji is principal with the Olympus High School, Dehradun, Uttarakhand. She's a seasoned education leader, an academician with 2 decades of experience. She did her schooling from Cambrian Hall, Dehradun. She has also done MA and BAd, MA in English and BAd. She's a trained software analyst. She has worked with the KK Birla Group for 2 years. She's the founder of Olympus High, which is a CBSE senior secondary school. It was founded in 1999. Apart from education, she is also very active in the field of writing short stories and film scripts. She started M&M Productions and KSM Films in association with Mr. K.S. Malla. She's also a very active member with FICCI Women's Group, Uttarakhand. She's also the founder with the Stopping by the Woods, which is a herbal brand of cosmetics and toiletries. She has received many prestigious awards, for her contribution to the society and in the field of education in particular. She's received Daughter of Uttarakhand Award 2019, GTF Education Award for Best K-12 School 2018, Nari Shakti Samman 2019, C's Award for Achievement in Education. We welcome you, Anuradha ma'am. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you so much. My honor to be in the presence of such wonderful people.
Welcome, ma'am. I'll be coming back to you. Our next key speaker, another very senior education leader, Dr. Madhuri Parthi. Dr. Parthi is Director Academics with Aravali Education Group, Gurgaon, Haryana. She's a visionary and a futuristic educationist. She has vast experience in setting schools. She has started and led various schools. She has played a vital role in the evolution of the learning experience. She has been with the Educom Shriram Schools as a group director. She has spearheaded Lakshmipat Singhania Education Foundation. With an experience of over 2 decades, she has been actively involved in building learning environments, developing out-of-the-box curriculum, and promoting hands-on learning. She has trained over 10,000 teachers, over 2,000 school leaders, and over 600 employees from various corporates within the country and globally. She has received International Professional of the Year Award by International Biographical Center, England. She has been featured in the Marcus Husanu book honoring successful individuals from different spheres of life. She has received the Doors to Diplomacy Platinum Award by the US State Department for facilitating a project on international relations and diplomacy. She's also received the Excellence in Education Award by Rajiv Gandhi Education Foundation. We welcome you, Dr. Madhuri Partiji. Thank you for joining. Our next key speaker, another very senior education leader, Dr. Deepa Bhushanji. Deepa ji is Director of Schools with the CP Goenka International Schools, Mumbai and Pune, Maharashtra. She is an educationist with over 25 years of experience and expertise in handling the 360-degree domain of education with a proven record of success in the business management of schools, curriculum design, and implementation, coaching and mentoring of school leadership, teacher and leadership professional development. Deepaji is a recipient of a national award for excellence from Kanchi Peeth Shankaracharya for outstanding work in the field of education. She has been awarded the Visionary Leader of the Year at the Future Leaders Summit and Awards and Best Director of the Year Award at International Schools Award, Dubai. She has been honored with the Innovation in Child Development Award at the Global Prime Foundation World Summit and the Progressive Educationist Award by the Evolve Excellence at Progressive Academic Excellence Conference and Cognizance Maharashtra for her sincere contribution towards quality in the Indian education system. She has also been a TEDx speaker. Under her leadership, CP Goenka Group of Schools ranked amongst the top 10 schools of Mumbai as per Time School Survey and got featured in Hindustan Times Ultimate Schools of Mumbai. We welcome you, Deepaji. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Welcome, ma'am. Our next key speaker, another senior education leader, Monica Chhabra ji. Monica ji is principal with the Midcon International School, Pune, Maharashtra. She's a passionate educator with decades of experience. She has been awarded and recognized for her contribution to the field of education many times. She's also pursuing PhD in education. We welcome you, Monica ma'am. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you. It's my privilege. Thank you so much.
Welcome, ma'am. Our next key speaker, another senior education leader, Dr. Rajesh Chandel ji. Dr. Chandel is principal with the Gyan Ganga International School, Jabalpur, Madhya Pradesh. He has a rich experience of 23 years as an educator. He's also the member with the affiliation committee of CBSE. He's also appointed the city coordinator by CBSE for districts Jabalpur and Mandla. He has done a PhD in physics, also MSc, MPhil, MA and BAd. He is qualified as member of a PAT, which is Peer Assessor Team of CBSE for School Quality Assessment and Accreditation. He has a flair for writing and has written articles for various newspapers and magazines on education. He's also acted in many telefilms and plays as a theatre artist and also worked as a radio jockey for 8 years. He is also associated with many organizations in leadership capacity like Indian Association of Physics Teachers, Korfball Association, Himachal Pradesh. He's received state honor from Sardar Prakash Singh Badalji. He was a chief minister in 2010 of Punjab. He's also received Global Green School Initiative Award 2013. He's also the founder with All India Intellectuals and Educators. We welcome you, Rajesh sir. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you so much, dear. Thanks for inviting me on this platform.
Welcome, sir. Our next key speaker, Dr. Neeta Sharma ji. Dr. Sharma is principal with the founder and principal with Radha International Academy, Aligarh, Uttar Pradesh. Dr. Neeta Sharma ji has been a serial entrepreneur and has successfully forayed into multiple businesses in the education sector over a short span of time. She has been working in the educational sector for over 10 years. She has done BCom, MBA, BEd and PhD in business administration. Radha International Academy was established by her in 2013. Since then, she has been gaining experience in teaching, managing, in the capacity of principal, manager, and director. Dr. Sharma's belief is that education is not about literacy alone. It is about crafting a responsible society of integrated women and men. By the development of body, mind, and intellect and soul, we can realize this dream. We welcome you, Neeta ji. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you. Our next key speaker, Mr. Sunil Dangi. Sunil ji is a co-founder and CEO of eMango. Sunil ji is an IIT graduate from IIT Kanpur. He's having master's degree in mathematics and scientific computing. He's an actuary, also a member with the Institute of Actuary, United Kingdom. He has worked with ICICI Prudential, HSBC, Financial Risk Advisor at Ernst & Young, India and UK. He's an entrepreneur for last 6 years in telecom, food and education sector. He's doing research on career counseling for last 2 years. Based on that research, they have come up with a wonderful product called eMango, which is a digital career counseling platform. We welcome you, Sunil. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you.
Thanks, Rajul. Thank you.
Welcome, sir. And our last key speaker for this very special 128th session, Mr. Vinayak Sharma. Vinayak ji is National Head of Business and Strategy with Torrens. He's an MBA double major in Finance and Marketing from IIMA. He dropped out after clearing first group of CA final to start his own brand of tea, which sells successfully in rural West Bengal and opened up subsequent exports to European countries. He's having a decades of experience in the FMCG sector, branding and supply chain, along with the handling international trade and logistics. Since 2017, involved in bringing an upliftment in the field of music education provided to schools across India through Torrens, a US-based organization which is known globally to provide the best in music education through its online and offline platforms. Welcome, Vinayakji. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you, Rajulji.
So with this, we come to the next part of the session, which is the opening remarks. I would request all our key speakers if we can have your quick 1 minute opening remark. I would request Anuradha ji if we can begin with you. If we can have your quick 1 minute opening remark first, Anuradha ma'am.
Yeah, I think NEP had been the need of the hour, that all we have been talking whenever it was launched. And the entire thing that it was launched in 2020, which till now has been the most depressing year for most of us. I think we all as educationists were looking forward to it. And we have lots and lots and lots of expectations out of it, though my take on it is that it still does not say how we are going to achieve it. It gives a lot of goals, a lot of fancy words, but achievement seems a little tough. The best part from my side, I feel that the pre-primary, the ECCE, what they have got into it, has been wonderful in that. That's it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Anuradha ji. I'll be coming back to you for your detailed interpretation on this policy. Now, I would request Madhuri ji, I just would like to check if we have your presence. Madhuri ji, do we have your presence? I believe she is yet to join. Now, I would request Deepa Bhushan ji. Deepa ji, if we can have your quick 1 minute opening remark.
Sure, good morning. And yes, I'd like to say that the NEP deals with a lot of stakeholders, contexts, domains, access levels, and so many more things, And if we are looking at equality coming through with the NEP in the space of education, I think that's a space that we may not go about it, dealing with it in the right manner. We need to look at how we can bring in equity through the national education policy and how we can therefore then implement it effectively. I think that's a space that we are looking at, and that's something maybe I'll speak about in detail later.
Absolutely. We all are very excited to hear your ideas in detail, ma'am. I'll be coming back to you.
Thank you.
Now, I would request Monica Chhabra ji or Monica ji, if we can have your opening remark.
Yeah, hi, good morning. So basically the National Education Policy 2020 aims at taking the traditional way of learning or teaching outside the four walls of a classroom. And it also encourages the students to imbibe from the real world. So how we were, earlier, the education was basically just content-driven curriculum, but now curriculum and pedagogy is to be more in a more structured manner, that it is more learner-centric. And there's a 360-degree assessment model that covers the educational, physical, and also mental well-being of the students. Experiential learning is a key aspect of this NEP, with computational thinking, logical reasoning, and other 21st century skills like data science and coding too. So basically with the larger goal to make Indian learners truly global citizens.
Absolutely. In fact, many other previous speakers during previous sessions have also raised similar views that this has a potential to put India on that global map. Thank you, ma'am. I'll be coming back to you for detailed talk. Now, I would request Rajesh sir, sir, if we can have your opening remark.
Yes, if I'm talking about NEP, the most beautiful thing which I have found and appreciate the policy makers regarding shifting to competency-based teaching, learning, and assessment. This is something very, very importantly required. And right now, so many stakeholders all together, different agencies, they are working to train the teachers how to go for the competency-based teaching first. Because if we are going for assessment, then we have to go for the teaching first. And CBSE, if I'm talking about a larger board at a side, along with the NCERT, they have started working to take their percentage of the questions which were taken as HOTs earlier, just only 10%, it will be moving towards 60% now. So it will be promoting something which is called as a critical and creative thinking, if we are moving to the competency-based teaching. And this will be aligned according to the 21st century classroom skills also. From the traditional assessment to the competency-focused assessment, then I think this will be bringing a change. There will be a track on the students if we are going on competency-based learning also, and we are assessing them. And of course, when we have to have this competency-based teaching and learning, there are so many areas. I'm just talking about one part that which I found that it sounds beautiful, and when it will be coming into actual happening, it will be lightening us more. And we have to design something like to acquire the learning outcomes. So the tools and the resources on which CBSE is looking for to work, that is and the government is looking for, is that is just tools and resources to that how the learning outcome can be taken. And I think in some of the boards things are things have started happening also, like we are reducing the curriculum to the core areas which are required to be there, as well as some classroom enjoyment is increased by integrating the art and all these things. I believe we can talk more about other areas also at the later stage.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Rajeshji. I'll be coming back to you. Now, I would request Neetaji, if we have your presence. Do we have your presence, Neetaji? I believe Dr. Neeta Sharma is also yet to join. Now, I would request Mr. Sunil Dangi. Sunilji, if we can have your opening remark.
Good morning, everyone. The new education policy, which has come after 34 years, and everybody knows it, such a drastic change in the education system is going to come, and that is going to bring our country's education system at par with the various developed countries' education system. And we need to work hard towards that. And of course, there will be challenges. And I'll be discussing about that the NEP has been talking about a lot about the holistic profiling, internships, and they have been talking about that, kids will be choosing the subject instead of the stream. So how the technology can help in all this, I'll be discussing about that. Thank you, Raju.
Thank you, Sunilji. I'll be coming back to you. Now, I would request Mr. Vinayak Sharma. Vinayak, if we can have your opening remark.
Good morning, everybody. It feels wonderful to be a part of this gathering. NAP 2020 lays special focus on music education and how to take it forward. So music being my field of expertise, I would like to lay my thoughts and opinions how to improve the current music education system that is prevailing in the schools. And I'll take the discussion forward through that regards. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of Monica ma'am from Midcon School. They're one of our associated schools in Pune. I've heard a lot about ma'am from Sunil. So let's start this session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I thank all of you for your opening remarks. And with this, we come to the next part of the session, which is the main talk session. I'll be coming back to all our key speakers, and all these speakers will get 8 to 10 minutes to share their detailed interpretation. But before I invite our first speaker, I just would like to share the learnings which we have had during our last 127 sessions. During our last 127 sessions, almost all the speakers, all the participants who joined us shared that this is a wonderful document. This document has a potential to place India at that coveted position of Vishwa Gyan Guru. But at the same time, almost same number of speakers shared apprehensions that this is going to be very, very difficult to execute. It is such an ambitious document. Many people cited the example of CCE, that it was also a great document, but got failed due to poor execution. Many believe teachers training is going to be a very hugely a concern area. In fact, a lot of educators also share that teachers training is, yes, this is the area of concern, but the bigger area of concern is lack of intent among teachers to get trained. Many people who participated share that finance is going to be a key concern area. Many believe that good schools in urban areas are already implementing these ideas. So challenge would be for rural schools, budget schools, and the government schools. Many people believe that this pandemic has exposed the poor distribution of our digital infrastructure in our country, and that is going to be another great area to find solutions for. So I would request all our key speakers that while sharing your remarks, while sharing your perspective, if you can also suggest some solutions, some best practice which you are implementing in your school, so that we can all learn from each other, and session become more useful and engaging for all of us. So with this, but before I invite first speaker Anuradha ji, I must recognize the presence of Balveer Singh Guleria sir, Principal Maharishi Vidya Mandir Bhopal. Welcome, Balveer sir. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Welcome, sir. Now I would request Anuradha ma'am, I would request if you can have your detailed perspective on national education policy.
Yeah, so good morning all. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
So such a great morning to have all of you, and so wonderful to hear your opening statements. See, I'm also the owner of the school, and I'm as a principal, and my school I started in 1999. I don't come from an educational background as such. If as I had been introduced, I was a software analyst and working there for a few of the years. I got married, left the job. My husband was in Assam that time, joined him, and there was just nothing to do. And I started going to the school where these laborers' children were being taught. And I started volunteering. That was my first experience with children. And I started taking very small children, 3 to 5 years old. And because they were challenged, I was challenged with their language and they were challenged with English. I was given a task to teach ABCD to them. So that I thought, it would be a piece of cake, nothing so difficult. I know everything and I am an analyst and I'll get through all the problems. It was such a difficult task when you don't know the language. But that was the time I started researching into the playway method of teaching and how I can get across to these small little kids without knowing their language. I learnt their cue words, they learnt my cue words, and we formed a beautiful bonding over a year's time. That was the time when I just thought of getting back to my hometown. My husband and myself, we left and we thought of starting this school. In 1999, when I thought of starting, and we thought that, why not start from the base? We started researching into what goes into a play school. Till then, play school was where children come and they play a lot. There are a lot of fancy toys, and we knew about the Montessori system. But most of the play schools in India at that time were feeder schools for the bigger colleges or bigger schools or +2 schools. And what they would do is get to know what these schools require in grade 1 or grade 3 or grade 6, wherever they are sending their students, and formulate the entire curriculum according to that, which I thought is the norm. But as I interacted with few of the people, I was introduced to ECE, the Early Childhood Education, in 99, which I found was an eye-opener for me. Basically speaking, I started from that, attended few of the schools who were running these experimental facilities. The best one is the nursery school in IIT Delhi. I went and attended. They used to call us once a month. Every month I used to travel and attend their workshops and see how the schools are functioning. It was such a big eye-opener because I understood that you do not need to invest a lot into your Montessori equipments or your fancy toys or colorful toys, how you can teach children through the least means, and how children are ready to experiment with everything. That was after 2000, 2002 that a lot of these experiential learning and the pedagogical things, cognitive development, everything came into the market. A lot of these big players came up, the chains, what we call EuroKids and Kidsy. I had a lovely group of people who would allow me to come and sit and observe. And then I thought, I went and I did my ECE training throughout and enrolled for B.Ed along with that. So I think over the years, my school has now +2. So starting from playgroup kindergarten over the years from 99 till 2020, I've had so many batches of 10th and 12th gone. I have always picked up these experiential learning programs from kindergarten till class 8th, wherever I can. And now also from 9 to 12th, I have a wonderful set of my PGTs and TGTs who bring in lot into blended learning into my courses when we do our projects and all. So apart from that, like, when this NEP 2020 came again, as you had said, that we were so excited about it. When we actually, no, we were not excited. I would say first we were very scared about it. Now, what changes are going to come, because we're so challenged by resources and the training. But when as gradually I went through it and a lot of people started asking, what are your opinion about it? I said, it's a wonderful thing, because first time they're focusing on vocational education. And if they're saying vocational education, employability, which we have been saying earlier also, but it was mostly on paper. So I know that experiential learning and blended learning is going to follow as the world is changing. So we need to get technology into our lives. We need to get technology into a day-to-day kind of people, because I have a school in a place where I get a very mixed crowd. There are a lot of people who have not been to very fancy public schools, but they're putting their children in there. They are the first time children who are being introduced to technology, computers. Then I have my usual lot who are so smart with it. The parents are so educated and open about the new system of education. So I have a mixed blend. So educating everyone to the same par has always been a challenge for us. But then NEP is opening door for me. I'm very, very excited about it, because see, the first salient feature, as they say, is that respect each learner, understand each learner, provide as per each learner. So I think that is what we require. We had been doing it also, putting focus onto these things: holistic development, cultural values, constitutional values. I think as we see the society changing, this has become the need of the hour for each one of us, and for the students who are there with parents who have lesser and lesser time to spend with that. So I have always been very, very attracted to my pre-primary, and I spend a lot of time with my pre-primary. My junior kids know me more than my senior children. But I'm so glad that I can still spend time with them, take out time and spend there. And we keep on doing a lot of experiment and research into what is working best with our younger children. So this including pre-primary into the national education policy has been a very good thing for me. What I feel is that, again, it has been like, when we talk about Anganwadi, Balwadi, or the normal kindergarten, the private schools kindergarten, there has been a disparity in what is happening in the classrooms. There are no specific goals. There are a lot of specific goals given in the ECE, but not everyone is following it. That has been the major challenge, and that's how I keep on growing my school also, because then I knew that if I have grade 1, 2, 3 with me, so I don't need to put pressure on my kindergarten to learn more than what is required, to go beyond than what is required. We can focus on the other aspect of development. When we talk about aesthetics, I see children from these normal pre-primary school, when they come for admission into my school also, they are so perfect with their numbers and alphabet, and their writing is perfect. But they're so scared to open up. They're so scared to answer. They're so scared to question the teacher. It takes us a little while. It takes us a couple of months to get them into our kind of system where they can lead, or they can ask, or they can tell the teacher, no, ma'am, I do not like this. I think this is a better thing. So that has always been a challenge. So I'm really looking forward to it. And by getting +5, 5 + 3 + 3 + 4. So in 5 years, I have my pre-primary grade 1, 2 together, which is already there in my school. I have been functioning like that for years and years now. And third to fifth, I have a separate kind of assessments, the working structure, but totally mapped to what we are doing from kindergarten to grade 2. Then, when we talk about multidisciplinary, so again, we have been so taught that we have to do the subjects, the English, Hindi, maths, and science, and SST, or environmental sciences, and all. And whenever there is some task, that task is divided into teacher. Okay, now the English teacher should take this, the maths teacher should take this. In the junior school, we have mother teachers, but in the senior school, it is so fixed that if any vocab or spelling kind of activity is to be done, that is to be given to the language teacher. I feel that NEP is really looking into it. But another question like always came to my mind, that why we knew there is a need. We say that NEP came after 34 years. But how did we start talking about the new education policy? It was actually the PISA ranking, if I'm not wrong, it in 2018, when the PISA ranking was done all over the world. I think 74 or 75 countries came in for the ranking, where they are judging 15-year-olds for their mathematics, science, and the languages, numeracy, literacy. India stood out 73rd out of those 74, 75. We had a lot of these smaller groups of countries, Kazakhstan, Ukraine, the East Europe, who had been doing much better than us in these PISA rankings. That rankled everyone. That was the time when people started talking about the PISA ranking, Indian education system, and how we can map ourselves to the international system. Till then, we had been very proud of our educational system. Now also we are very proud of it. But then we never thought, we thought, we are giving out the best of the doctors, the best engineers in the world. Our people, our scientists are there in the NASA, and everyone looks up to us for medical facilities, and we are really growing. But what we did not understand it, that there is a huge disparity between how our children in the normal schools or the government schools are learning, and how other children in other schools are there. Then there was a disparity, there is a disparity between various states also, that how a learner is learning and how they're growing up and how they're coming out. So that was the time everyone started talking about our educational policy, the need for the new educational policy, the educational system at that point of time, where it requires a change. Even the students, and it was a little disheartening for the educationists, that after giving in so much, how has the world changed for India? India has always been known for Gurukul system and a lot of interaction with children, taking them outside, learning about nature, even mapping religion to nature and environment. And how did we become so Marx focused? Everything boiled down to what Marx can give. Again, if I get back to the junior, the pre-primary, most of the parents, when they come, they're first-time parents also, very excited with their children who would be coming to school. They would come and they would tell us, my child is very smart, say no doubt about it. And my child already knows the alphabet, they already know the numbers, they can recite so many poetry, and they are into storytelling, they can dance and they can sing. It's wonderful to have these children with us all the time. But after a few days, the things start off. First thing, my child does not eat, बिल्कुल खाना नहीं खाता है, टिफिन आप इसको स्कूल में खिला दीजिए, does not respect. Please teach them how to respect the elders, would not do their own work. So, I somehow felt that these are the things which the parents should be focusing at home. This is not the duty of a teacher as such. All these comes from home. Every house has a certain set of rules and a set of discipline. We
Absolutely.
can up to a certain level. But then, it's very difficult to put forward that please, you do not teach them alphabet, numbers, and anything. Let us do that. You focus on the other things. Then they don't know what to do with the children. When the government came up with no homework policy, they just did not know what to do with the children. Homework nahi hai, hum kya karayenge? Please write something. Write something. Then only my child is going to listen. Then we told them that you do not need to do anything else apart from whatever play they like
Another ma'am,
to.
I would
I said, give
request
them a lot of
please conclude in one more minute. We allotted 10 minutes
Yes.
to one speaker.
Yeah, sure. So, my thing is that, the challenges what we have seen in pre-primary, and now government coming up with all the rules and regulations and specific goals is definitely going to help out in the later stages of the schools also. The schooling for the middle school, and even for our 10th, 11th, 12th standard, so that we can answer that later on. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Anuradha ma'am, for these wonderful thoughts. That you talked about the biggest laudable point in policy is the focus on vocational education. We all agree with you, ma'am. You also talked about that with the time we need to accept experiential learning and the hybrid model of learning, and that is going to be part of our education. You also talked about why and how why we need to embrace technology, in a more proactive way. You shared your assessment that the success of multidisciplinary part of the policy demands application in the teacher's part. You also talked about the PISA, the poor ranking of India in PISA, but in fact, a lot of educators have also shared similar thoughts. But many believe that PISA ranking doesn't show the true picture of India's caliber, uh, the learning caliber of our students, because the sample which the students, the sample of students who are representing India, so that needs to be a lot of people believe is questionable. You also talked about, and you shared your part, that we need to have more proactive involvement of parents in a right way, for our fruitful learning of our learners. So thank you, Anuradha ma'am, for your wonderful thoughts and experience. I'll be coming back to you with questions. Thank you. I also must recognize the presence of Amita Mittal ma'am, a very senior education leader from Punjab, Ludhiana, director with Wisdom Global School. Welcome, Amita ji. And now I would request our next speaker for this session, Deepa Bhushan ji. Deepa ma'am, if you can have your detailed interpretation.
Thank you. Well, the first thing that I would say is that the NEP was long overdue. We have been working in pockets of excellence, in the sense, in a few places here and there, but in a cohesive manner across the country, this hasn't been happening. So whenever I've worked with schools, and we've been able to create excellence in single schools, but the question that has always been in my head has been that how do we bring in quality when we are working with scale. So like a classroom teacher can do great stuff with that one class of hers. A principal can do great stuff with that one, school of hers. Another one can do, with the chain of schools. A director can do with the chain of schools. But how, as a country, can we bring in quality with scale? I think has been a large question in my head. And I think at a policy level, we needed something like the NEP to guide and direct. So one of the things I think everyone should understand, that the NEP is a guiding light. Yeah, it is not set in stone, but it is a guiding light for everybody to work with. So if you see, our country, the context of our country is so large. You have like different financial level schools, you have different size schools, you have different types of schools, you have different types of learners, and plus there are levels of learners. Now you're dealing with so much, then your different kinds of stakeholders, different kind of fundings, different kinds of infrastructure. There's so many variations really within the school. So for one policy to actually say that in a country which has so many variations, for it to deal with everything is not going to be possible. And therefore comes in the questions of really will it work? But my thought is that, you know, if we look at it, the NEP as a guiding light, and we say that, you know, it's giving us direction, the way we want to work with, and therefore pick up how we can suit it to the needs of our schools, like private schools, public schools, rural schools, urban schools, you know, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities. Everybody has different needs. The context is completely different and it needs to be worked differently. So those bits can be taken into place and changes need to be made accordingly. But the base, that is the core. So what the NEP is really asking us to do, and this is something that I've been really working is make learning contemporary, which is let it be for today. Let it be for today. That, you know, it has to be contemporary. It can no longer be something which is only bookish or traditional or meeting the needs of an earlier century, and, you know, we're expecting it to fulfill the needs of today. It's not going to happen. So I think that's something that we really need to look at. Also engaging our learners. So I'm going to talk about these two elements first, which is, you know, the context of what the learning needs to be, that learning has to be for today and for the future. And the second is, how do you engage your learners? Learners are changing. You know, I think more than the pandemic has shown to us that children have taken so easily to digital literacy and to learn in a digital manner, to take on the blended learning. We've been talking about this for years, that this needed to happen. But I think the pandemic kind of fast forwarded that whole space and ensured that as a country, we could access more and more learners to the digital space. And, you know, and even today, mobile phones are even in villages. Even a villager will know how to, you know, click those buttons and find their way around it. Young children do. You know, Sugata Mitra's experiment with the hole in the wall showed us that children could learn in any space as long as they were engaged and you allowed them to be curious. So I think all those elements need to be looked into. So I'm going to come back with, you know, when I'm talking about learning has to be for today. When the NEP talks about vocational guidance and the NEP talks about really, you know, the vocational learning that needs to happen, as well as multidisciplinary, when the subjects need to merge together, because when we are working or when we are doing anything, we don't say between 9 to 10 in my workplace, I will do only maths, calculations. I will only communicate between 11 to 12 in English. We don't do that in real life. So you have to see application of everything into all your spaces, and how all these silos of learning of subjects are actually connected together. And I think that's something also that the NEP is saying. So many years back, what happened was I was working, you know, with children, and I realized that we were teaching children what they needed to, you know, like the subject. So we were getting them to get engaged. We were using different newer and newer teaching methodologies, more hands-on, more experiential based. I started off actually as a preschool teacher. So in preschool, you have a lot of play-based learning. So I realized that you could use materials and concepts that were abstract could be made concrete for the children. Learning had to be experiential for children to understand. Now, while working in this in preschool, I realized that it didn't need to stop there. It needed to move forward. Why would we teach 9th and 10th graders only through, you know, textbooks and the written word? Why couldn't we use experiential learning with them? So starting with every subject, we said, okay, if you're teaching them geography, and we actually needed to teach children about rotation and revolution, I would see that in the higher grades also children would get confused with the, you know, definitions and things like that. And I'd get them to kind of actually do the action. So you get kinesthetic learning at where, you know, you rotate and you revolve. So because you're kinesthetically experiencing it, you're remembering it and you're understanding it. So it's moving into your long-term memory. So the engagement had to move from every level, and learning had to be experiential for children. Now, it is extremely simple to do it. So, what the NEP is asking is take it across. Don't limit it there. Don't limit it to those pockets of excellence. Certain schools only doing it. Every school should be looking at their learner and actually making learning engaging, learning more meaningful for them. And this is something that is coming through. Another thing that, so a few years back, I wrote books. I believe that, we teach children the subjects, but something very important we need to teach them about is life. So I wrote books on financial literacy, digital literacy, global literacy, civic literacy, and health literacy. We talk about these 5 elements really, which are for us to lead a great life, right? And this is really what we need today. I know that when I had to go to a bank, I didn't know how to fill up a checkbook. I had to learn it at a much later stage. Today, basics like this, like how to use a credit card, do I really want something, do I need something? I said, why can't we start early? We keep waiting till the 9th and 10th and 8th standard, or in college we will learn about these things, but we can start off earlier. So I actually wrote books for the younger children from grade 1 upwards, that how can you learn about all these elements and look at these and focus at these. I think a lot of what we're talking about, even with vocational education, when we are doing that, is we're bringing those elements into the curriculum and we're saying, okay, start at this space, but we can take it forward. And I think those are things that can really go to another level. So these are about the learner, and I could go into a lot of depth, but we have those 10 minutes and things. Another thing is equipping teachers. I think that is so important. So I remember a year and a half back, I was at a conference for Economic Times, and I was speaking out there about how technology was being used for teaching. And I know that when I was talking to a lot of teachers, I'd go into schools and I talk to teachers about, so what are you doing with technology? How are you bringing in technology into learning? Everyone would say, yeah, I'm using technology. I make a PPT. And I showed it to the children. Now, if you're going to be saying that you made a PPT and you showed it to the children, that's not what technology is about. I think a year and a half later and today, I must say hats off to the teachers, because I don't think anything, the NEP coming at any other time would not really have brought in so much change as it has in this time with the pandemic. So there's something positive, happening with the pandemic, that digital literacy really and digital education, blended education really came into the picture. And the teachers took it on also, and have actually learned how to use various kind of tools. I think even I have. I mean, so often I think learning at every level is important, and we've all learned also through the space. So digital literacy and digital education, blended education, has become a thing, and I think it has not only been in the urban spaces but also in the rural spaces. So the mobile phone, the M-learning space has really, really grown and has helped to reach out to learners. Something that the NEP is looking at is also access to the maximum number of learners. And I think this is now going to be possible by good quality education, good quality teaching can reach out to learners even in the remotest of places through mobile learning, through digital learning. So I'd say that, a lot of things need to be worked out through the NEP, but a lot already is happening and is moving in a particular direction. So that's from me for today. I think, have I met my 10-minute guy? It's 10 minutes is a very short time to speak about the NEP, but we could go on and on. So I'll close here.
We understand that, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, Deepa ji, for your wonderful thoughts and ideas. We all agree with you when you say that NEP is a guiding light. It's a document which is offering a lot of suggestions and guiding us, and it is also offering desired flexibility. You also talked about importance of engaging our learners, because our learners are changing. They have different kind of tastes, they have different kind of mindset today. So we need to adapt accordingly. You also talked about how comfortable they are in adopting digital learning, and we all agree with you when we applaud our teachers who did a wonderful job in last 1 year and saved 1 year of learning. You also talked about that learning cannot take place in silos. we need to connect and we need to, create a comprehensive programs for learning. We also talked about that we need to, more, though we have adopted technology in many ways, but we, we need to learn the appropriate use of technology in a more, I would say, a detailed way. And, you also talked about the importance of experiential learning and why NEP is going to create an impact, about those things. So thank you, Adipa ma'am. I'll be coming back to you with questions. Thank you for your thoughts. And meanwhile, we have been joined by another senior education leaders, Shivani Malhotra ji, Director Strategy, Vega School, Gurugram, and Priyanka Atriji, Principal, Guru Ram Rai Public School, Dehradun. We welcome you both, Shivani ji and Priyanka ji. Thank you for joining. And now I would request Dr. Rajesh Chandel. Rajesh ji, if I may invite you, and if we can have your perspective and ideas on national education policy, then I'll go to the map. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, dear. And thanks to the wonderful speakers, those who spoke before me. They have been just covering all the areas and spoke very firmly about what NEP says and what are their perspectives. When you talk about my say, I think when we're looking at different principles or different areas of the NEP, I'm just taking this on the points like we are talking about the equity and inclusion. First of all, if I'm just looking at this point, equity and inclusion has been given more stress, and it has been taken that it will be a cornerstone for all kind of the educational decisions. Very true, it's required. Because we have to keep that particular child in the mind, that whether this is social, or it is on the caste, color, or it is on the slow learners basis, or it is on the poor, urban poor, or village, rural, or other area, we need to do the inclusion. But if I think, and I just go back to my school days, whether we were doing the inclusion at the time or not, I think every teacher and every student who is coming to school now and who was going and attending school at that time, there were some auto processes which were happening in our times in the school, and we were getting a lot of experiential learning, which was not being taught as specific experiential learning, that it is experiential learning for you, and this is your topic and you have to take it forward. But things were coming and happening. Now we need to focus on these as a very important point, and that has to be taken in the classroom also. We need to take care of the children in a very specific manner, because now the children of 21st century are there in the hands of the teacher, those who got education in the 20th century. NEP is, yes, it is a guiding document. It's not something like that form or a stepping stone for all of us. But this guiding document needs some assistance with the NCF, which is still awaited by all of us. I think that will be putting and throwing more light, and this document which is coming to, which is NCF, National Curriculum Framework for the School Education, that is going to get strengthened this year, because that is coming for the school education separately, that is coming for the teacher education separately. So I think that document which is coming and is in line with the NEP 2020 will be throwing more light on different areas. It's like a lot of people are confused right now that we respect the diversity in the country. And this diversity which is in the country, now we have to develop a curriculum as per NEP that should be of the national level, and it has to have the context which is the local one. Now, how it will go? There is something which is a question mark within all, that it has to be in the curriculum also, it has to be in the pedagogy also. But what I say is that, yes, when we are talking about the child who is attending the school, if the dropout is taken into account, that students, those who are going to the school, are not attending school because of one reason, that the teacher is not teaching them in their local language. But practically, to what extent it would be possible? And when we are talking about the different level of the schools, we are talking about the public schools and we are talking about the government schools. So if we are talking about the equity and inclusion, then this inclusion has to be balanced to some extent. That is very, very important. I was talking in my opening note also, that was something very important, which I am just taking it as a takeaway, that when we are moving from the rote learning to the competency-based education, because a lot of emphasis is being laid on this particular point by the NEP, that we have to focus on the concept-based education. So when this concept-based education is to be taken, we are moving away from the rote learning. What about the Bloom's taxonomy, which was designed by the great person, and he has taken all the areas of the learning? If you're talking about the rote learning, it is to be taken away, and we have to move to the concept-based teaching and learning, and then assessment is to be done accordingly. What about the children, those who are at the remembering level only of the Bloom's taxonomy? What about those children, those who are at the understanding level only? What about the competency level of these children? Can they compete with those who can evaluate and who can create also? These are some question marks. We are keeping in mind the multiple intelligences of the students when the teacher is going to the class. As a teacher, when I was going to the class on the regular basis, I was teaching physics to them. It was very much in my mind that if I am having 40 students in the class, then all these 40 students must be able to learn what I am teaching. They must be able to understand what I am teaching. They must be able to implement it outside that what is being done. But if we are focusing on that, are we going to take it granted that 40 minds, those who are there, are of the similar category? First of all, we have to do the inclusion of those 40 minds. That is more important, because this equity and inclusion which is taken in mind by the teacher, that is something that we are talking about the socially disadvantaged groups, or we are talking about somebody who is a special child, or who is having some issues, problems of the learning disabilities or other areas. That is something which we have to be very particular. If you're talking about something if we go in the depth of this policy, that is something to train the teachers. Training of the teachers is given more importance into this one, and teacher is being strengthened to some extent. NEP says that we will monitor that teacher right from the recruitment, not only from the recruitment, but getting ready to get recruited, and then after that moving towards the appointment. Then after that, when you are there, then CPDs will be there, and then after that training you are at every level. This is something beautiful. And one more beautiful area which has been added into this one, whatever may be the topics of training to the teachers, we are having some special children in the school. We are having talented students also in the class. We are having some special children in the class. If these children are studied and understood and are recognized well in the beginning, when we are talking about the early childhood care and education, ECCE level pay, if we are recognizing these unique capabilities of these students, these children, I think something best can be done for these students. If you are recognizing, yes, this child is talented in the sports area, this child is talented into the art area, this child is talented into the dance area, this child is having this particular problem also, and this problem can be rectified by having this type of the sessions, and this type of the helps and aids can be given to this one. I think something additional can be done for the students, those who are specially requiring the inclusion, and those who can perform in the better way also. 21st century it is now, and we have set a right note with the NEPs welcoming, and NEP has come again. Sometimes I feel that things are planned to happen in the very well-mannered, behaved way, but things will be happening the way we were doing in the class. Teacher is not leaving any stone unturned actually. Whether it is to identify as in NEP we say that we have to go for some the critical thinking is to be developed, or creative thinking is to be developed, or other areas of the children are to be developed. Who says that holistic development was not being done earlier? We are talking about the holistic report card now, but report cards, if you see just years back, then every school is focusing on the holistic development of the child. We never say, as a principal, as an educator, we never say that teaching and learning happens only in the classroom. This is not the syllabus which is giving insight to the student. This is teaching and learning happens within the four walls of the school, as well as it happens when the child is coming in the school bus to the school. It happens when it is the child is with the parents, child is in the malls, walking in and around. Everywhere teaching and learning happens, and that grooms a personality in all. So when we are talking about the report card, as per NEP, that it has to be 360. And it has to have the inclusion of the parents also in the PTM also in other areas. where we are not teaching them, where we are not taking the parents' say in that one, where we are not grooming them that how to behave, how to do all the things which are the personal, or as Deepa ma'am was talking about, that we need to teach them how to use the credit card, debit card in the early ages. This is something which is required, is going on, and the children of today, they are much smarter and are learning a lot. We parents and the teachers need to groom ourselves more to get in line with the student. That is much more required. Something which is wonderfully planned now, even as I'm working with the CBSE school, the CBSE is talking about the integration of the art. We have done some contemporary subjects has been taken. Artificial intelligence has already come. Coding has already come. Now more IT subjects are being brought. Even organic subjects are being brought to the school level also. So this is something a welcoming note. And yes, as a teacher, if I say the National Education Policy document which has come till now, whatever takeaways are there, everyone is trying to work on that particular line. But I believe that real teaching and learning which is happening in the classroom, the zeal of teachers, you must have seen, every one of us, they have seen. Those who were the Sanskrit teachers, they are now techno-friendly. The moment we started, we switched to the online classes. Maybe some time was required for them, but a teacher can do anything if they are committed to their profession. And that is what they have done during the pandemic also. And maybe yes, of course, not maybe, but I'm having firm belief that they will be carrying it forward also. We are really welcoming it, ready to work according to the new education policy. And yes, of course, waiting for the NCF 2021. In any of the time, and maybe that will be throwing more light on this document, that how we have to go. Thank you so much for giving me time to speak on this.
Thank you, Rajesh sir. You talked about these very important areas, equity, inclusion. You also talked about that, after the coming of NCF, we all will get more clarity. You talked about why inclusion need to be more balanced. You also talked about the importance of concept-based teaching and learning. You also talked about the diversity among students in a classroom it's a challenge for teachers, and they need to be trained to tackle that challenge, to handle that challenge. You also talked about the importance of importance for teachers to have proper understanding of their their students, inside the class, their limitations, their strengths. So for that, teachers training is the key. And in the end, you talked about that learning is taking place everywhere. Not just inside the classrooms, it is taking place everywhere. So our report card must have the capability to represent all aspects of growth and development. So NEP is also talking about that. So big thanks, Rajesh, for joining and sharing your thoughts. I'll be coming back to you with questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Now I would request Monica Chhabra, ma'am. Monica, ma'am, if we can have your ideas, your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you. So most of the eminent speakers have already covered up most of the points, but I would surely like to put across my views. Well, when it comes to transforming curriculum and pedagogical structure, it has been the demand of the day across all boards, whether it's CBSE, SSC, IB. So, but of course, NEP is a guideline, like what other speakers spoke. The key objectives are here again to facilitate multiple pathways of learning, whether by formal education modes or non-formal education modes, and then the main focus being on competency-based education. And as I said earlier, from content-driven to application-oriented knowledge. This is again a key point, so that ultimately, as our PM says, we have to become Atmanirbhar, and our students have to become Atmanirbhar. So we should not be just job seekers, but job creators. So basically, keeping the futuristic vision, we need to, of course, update the skill set of our students, because otherwise the application-oriented knowledge will surely see a downfall. And to bridge the gap between understanding and implementation, the curriculum also has to be very relatable. Okay, it has to be like contemporary based education also. Like what we see these days, children, they are engaged in gaming, but then that's as a fun activity. It's not as a mind activity, and it doesn't enhance their logical thinking. So they become user oriented rather than application oriented. They become user oriented. So in case we talk about any aspect, that is contemporary to the day for these teenagers or any children, how to code an AI application is also important that they should know, right? Like when we talk about China, Finland and all, there they teach coding right from grade 1. Whereas now we are thinking of, incorporating that in our curriculum. So it is very important that, yes, we, to make our students, sustainable on the global platform, we do change our curriculum and do go ahead with the latest technology also. So the thing is that project-based learning is also something that's surely going to help the students having that concept. When we talk about the concept of experiential learning, we come up with different issues, but when they go for this AI coding and all incorporated in their syllabus, of course, a child will certainly think of probably making a software for detecting underground water pipe leakage, or a child might think of developing an advanced pothole detection. So the day-to-day issues that our children and we face. So basic objective of NEP is that to make the education system more relatable, where we find them actually engaging themselves with the real life challenges. So when we talk about critical thinking or problem solving, these are not just words that are related to the books, but these are way of life. How you think and how you lead your life in a way that, yes, when there's a problem, okay, then how you prepare an algorithm for it, okay, not just for the books or to reproduce on the answer sheets, but actually to face the life. So these are the basic things that I feel that, we should always, as educators, should think on, and NEP is again a guideline for it. And this 5+3+3+4 structure is also, of course, of grave importance. Though we even earlier also, this just making the structure doesn't make much difference. It's just that the curriculum, how you divide between these structures. So besides that, the vocational courses that we are talking about that are to be included. Like earlier, I remember when I was a child, I did my schooling from Kendra Vidyalaya. But that time, even in government school, we used to have SUPW periods, socially useful and productive work. Those periods which we as children used to call some useful periods wasted, just in a lighter tone. Because as students, we don't realize. And at that time, we used to be taught how to make candles. Then we used to be taught knitting and some kind of cookery and all. So these courses, or these vocational courses, of course, are of grave importance. These also guide you about transdisciplinary aspects. So when we talk about transdisciplinary, for example, if I'm teaching a fraction to my student, probably the child may not be so interested if the child, the orientation of his mind is not so mathematical, or his mathematical aptitude is not good. But then how do we integrate art, or how do we, any kind of art form in it to make it interesting? So here we have to think out of box as educators, that, okay, probably we'll have some 4 glasses filled with colored water, and 3/4 of water, a glass full of water, 1/4 of water, like that. And that shows different fractions. And then you may ask the children to blow air using a pipe. So the different sounds that it produces. So that becomes a part of music, and also it becomes a part of maths where you're teaching them fractions. So this is how we need to make it interesting. Otherwise, NEP and the guidelines that it is providing, it will be just stay there, unless and until we make our teachers have some kind of expertise in making the classrooms ready for joyful learning, and coming with innovative ideas wherein we make the children engage more, as I said, by project-based learning. Or also we can go for flipped classrooms, blended learning. Differentiated instruction is again one point which I would like to speak about, because here when we see that children come from different, with different backgrounds and with different levels of understanding, here differentiated instruction does have a very important aspect, wherein the teacher will be able to reach, each and every child and understand how the child is able to understand, comprehend before the child goes to the next level. So again, making it interesting by considering that no subject is a watertight compartment, and integrating subjects together to ensure that it becomes more enjoyable and the children focus on it. That, of course, is a very important part, but then again, a challenge for teachers. So it is important that we train our teachers that way so that we are able to do justice to this NEP, which comes with good guidelines. Application is more important. Again, when we talk about multilingualism here, so NEP says that, you know, we may encourage learning or teaching using the mother tongue of the child. But however, what I feel is that if I am sitting in Maharashtra and I want a teacher who's very well equipped with her skills, she has a good skill set of teaching, but she is from probably Bengal or from Kerala. Now, it won't be possible for us to hire her and make her teach in that language, right? So this, I'm not very sure that this kind of, if there's any emphasis laid on teaching the child in his mother tongue, how far it will be feasible for us. That's again a challenge. However, the foundational stage where now the NEP says that it will be more on good behavior, courtesy, ethics, or teamwork and cooperation. Here we should again have certain activities. Having a guideline will not be enough, but then how do we engage the children? What kind of concepts we teach and how we teach them? Suppose we are teaching them shadows, then are we teaching them what shadow is, like how it is, or we actually take them outside? And when we take them out, stand under the sun and make them have that hands-on experience of it. Or when we say introduce density. So simple activities like putting an egg in a bowl of water with salt and without salt, and check whether the egg is floating or the egg is sinking. These activities will actually make it fun-filled. So practically speaking, on the ground, it is not just for the directors and the principals to decide, but yes, it is for teachers, and it is our duty to guide our teachers to take ahead the curriculum in that way that the objective is achieved. So the points that are given in NEP are of course wonderful, but the challenges that we are going to face, so we should be very much ready. One important aspect is again reducing the curriculum to the basic relatable concepts. That's one very positive aspect of it, that now there will be many concepts that which we feel that are not much usable. Those will be removed, and the books will reduce in size and weight, and also in curriculum, and that core curriculum will be something that we are looking forward to, wherein the children will be having no extra burden, but only that curriculum that the children will be enjoying and they find it related to the real world environment. And likewise, the parents also will have that kind of mindset that just scoring in academics is not of much use, but what the child is doing in the subject enrichment activities, or how the child is performing in any kind of quiz and other activities that the school conducts, that also is of much importance, because for sure that will boost child's confidence. And the other 21st century related skills that we talk about, collaboration, confidence, critical thinking, all those are to be developed like this. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you, Monica ma'am. Thank you, Monica ma'am, for sharing your ideas. You began with the while sharing the importance of project-based learnings. You also talked about the importance of this new structure, but you said that the more important part is to divide curriculum, as per the right structure. You also talked about the importance of vocational courses, and you believe and you share your assessment that focus on vocational education would create huge impact in coming time. You also talked about why and how teachers should adopt innovative and out-of-box solutions to create a joyful environment for learners. You also talked about the training teachers is the key for the successful implementation of policy. This is not more about school leaders like management and principals. It is more about the school teachers who are going to implement this policy. You also talked about that emphasis upon mother tongue may create some challenges in terms of feasibility. And in the end, you talked about that reduction of curriculum, it's going to bring positive results. So it is a welcome step. So big thanks, Monica ma'am, for joining and sharing your wonderful ideas. I'll be coming back to you with questions. Thank you for joining. And now with this, now I would request Sunil Dangi or Sunil ji, if you can have your ideas and thoughts. Sunil Dangi ji, do we have your presence? I believe we have lost his connection. Now I would request Vinayak Sharma ji, Vinayak ji, if we can have your ideas and thoughts.
Thank you, Rajulji. As I said, music being my core area of expertise, I would like to discuss and highlight those aspects. See, scientists, educationalists, and learning experts have produced innumerable studies that establish the value of music education for children. But owing to the modern pressures, not every child has an access to some level of music learning. Now, this integration is mandated in many boards, including CBSE and ICSE, but effective implementation has been beyond the reach of even schools that have the best of intentions. Now, very